The immortal John Hancock here, joined by my lovely wife,
Sarah.
And we have kind of a more serious talk to talk about today. And this has been on my mind. We've had some somber news lately. And I want to first start off this video by saying I am not alluding that violent video games kill anybody. This is not about that. But this is more about media and our personal family choice, that what we do with our kids in our household, and hopefully this video can help others with kids, or even just having a conversation. Because I think one thing, when tragedies happen in society, I think it's good for people of all different viewpoints to come together and have a reasonable conversation. Now, our backgrounds, do you want to say your background?
Sure. I have a long background in the mental health field and doing anti-oppression work, like in domestic violence and sexual assault field. So currently I'm the program director of a nonprofit who helps survivors of childhood or adult abuse or violence. And
I've been in that field with many jobs.
Yeah, about 18 years total.
Yeah, a long time. And so my background is I went to school to be a teacher. Elementary school teacher. I then served about 10 years in mental health field, working with kids and adults, and then went back to the educational field. And I also was a instructor at Portland Community College for 5 years. And so I've worked with kids and adults. I'm also a gamer. I'm also a collector. I am not saying I'm not opposed to playing M-rated games, but I'm an adult. I'm 41. And I have some thoughts about kids growing up in households. And again, I'm not saying what to do. I'm not saying what people should do, but I'm just telling you what I do in my household and things I see on a day-to-day basis, as you do.
Well, even before we had kids, we, because of our career fields, have seen the impacts of kids being exposed to violence in their homes, or media that has extreme violence, or lots of different negative things that impact kids in their developmental stages.
Yeah, so what I'm kind of boiling this down to is there's some common sense out there that I think we need to look at with our kids and what types of games these kids are being exposed to. On a day-to-day basis, I hear kids at my job talk about games they shouldn't be playing, okay? And for people that don't know out there, games have a rating. There is a rating out there already out there, and it's ESRB rating. It's the Entertainment Software Rating Board, and games are rated on their content, and it's on the front of a video game, and it's everything from EC, early childhood, E for everyone 10 plus, E10, teen, mature, and adults only. And typically there's 3 ratings that are the most common: E, teen, E for everyone, teen, and mature. And people don't look at those. People don't look at those. People typically, just like a kid wants a video game, they play a video game.
Well, and I'm not saying the system's perfect, but for me, a non-gamer, it's really helpful guideline. I don't have to do hours and hours on research. I can see on the front of the game what the rating is, and take it with a grain of salt if I want to. But it's a general guideline. Yeah. And
so for how we do it in the Hancock family, again, I'm not telling anybody what to do because that's your choice. But these are things to think of. Okay, I have a master's in psychology. I studied early childhood development, and seeing the impact of violent video games on the growth and development of a child, especially when they can't decipher between fantasy and reality. Okay, it's a problem. Okay, nothing wrong with playing a game of Resident Evil if you're an adult, and you can, that's entertainment. That's fine. When it becomes a problem is when people think that a 5-year-old can handle that.
Right. They're not ready. And if you're into science and research, there's a lot of research out there. The brain science is fascinating about in those developmental ages, like children, their brains are developing, and things that go in, the input affects the neural pathways. And so not to get super nerdy, plus I'm not a scientist, but it's not just someone saying this is good or this is bad, or the moral police. Like, there's brain development, and what goes in affects kids, and their brains are developing.
Yeah, and so, like, you know, I have a game room, and I've played M-rated games, and I've bought M-rated games. I don't play them around my kids ever. I don't play them in earshot. I play them when the kids go to bed, and more importantly, the video games my son gets to play is a case-by-case basis. We have a son, he's 4th grade, he's very sensitive, and so we have discussions about why he wants to play something. We allow Minecraft, Lego Star Wars, but, you know, typically a teen game, a game rated teen, is a case-by-case basis. And we have a conversation about that before he gets to play that. I know that I let him play Street Fighter, and that was controversial because I didn't talk to you about it. And, you know, there was a disagreement. And, you know, long story short, he doesn't play Street Fighter. You know?
There's time. There's no rush. There's no rush. He's 9 years old. If the point is to fight, hurt, kill, maim, let's hold off. And, you know, it's a good game. I play it, but again, I'm adult. I'm an adult.
Yeah, and so we're not anti-violent video games, but I think there's a time and a place for kids, especially young kids. I think it gets more challenging when they're teens, but this conversation came up. Son came home. Why can't I play this game? I have a friend that gets to play it, and our answer is, we're a different household. We have a different set of rules, and what we do is going to be different than your neighbor, and that's not okay with us. And so that's something that, again, I want people with families, kids to think about, or if you're wanting to have kids. I think the things to remember, I have some bullet points. If you think a kid's used to it or can take it, I'm going to say no.
Yeah, it's kind of a thinking error. One thing I was just thinking about is it's scary when the shock value wears off. So, for example, we're talking little kids. Oh, I heard so-and-so plays GTA. Well, the way that kid talks about it is like it's no big deal anymore. And all the things that you can do in GTA. That's scary. First, second, third graders feeling like that's not horrible and shocking.
I know that the violent video games I was exposed to as an early age, and movies, affect my sensitivity in a bad way, you know, and I don't think it's a good thing. I can admit to that. And I think there's a time and place for that, and I think that we as a society need to be have more empathy and more sensitivity towards one another. More importantly, and this goes out to parents or people with kids, talk to your kids about why they're playing a game. Ask them about their day. Have connection to that. Play the game with them. I think that's the best thing you can do. I want to encourage parents to know more about what their kids are looking at on YouTube, on screen time, on video games. We're always asking our kids, like, what are you looking at? Why do you like it?
It reminds me of when we first allowed our son to watch Star Wars, and he was pretty young because we're a big Star Wars family. But, you know, there's intense scenes and fighting in Star Wars and violence. And so when John's talking about open dialogue, we had a lot of open dialogue with our son Justice about in Star Wars, and used it as teaching good choices and bad choices. Because pick an episode, and there's every character in Star Wars making choices, and for the light side or the dark side, or good choices or bad choices, and is there redemption, is there forgiveness? So that open dialogue made me feel better as a parent in exposing him to a movie like that at a young age. What are the life lessons? What are the takeaways? Versus just watching it and taking it in without any dialogue.
And, you know, we want people to have freedom with whatever you feel comfortable and believe in. Again, this is not attached to any particular religion, or, again, this is just common sense. And for some people out there, they may oppose this conversation or this belief system, and that's fine. I'm just saying I've worked a lot in the public, and I've worked with a lot of kids, and I've seen the dark side of things, where there's a lot of kids making unhealthy choices, and then they come to find out they've been exposed to a lot of unhealthy content that they like, that they are allowed to play, and I don't think it's good on their brain.
They don't know how to, if they're sad, angry, and they don't have the coping mechanisms or tools to get that out in a healthy way, they might think that hurting their pet or hitting their sister or cussing out a teacher, whatever, is the only way, because they don't have any other input that's healthy. And so that's another point to that. They need options. They need... We as adults in their lives are entrusted to teach them. And if all their input is mostly negative or exaggerated or hyper sexualized or hyper violent, and they're young and their brains are developing, you know, what do we expect? So it's a big responsibility, but
and I think that I'm not taking like the shelter approach to raising kids, because we're big on education, having open discussion with our kids on violence, sex, age appropriate.
Yeah, age appropriateness is huge.
But we're not the type of family that like shuns, like, oh, you can't see that, and then if they ask about it, like, we're not going to talk about it, or because we never say because I said so. We always try to give an age appropriate answer on why we don't think that's a healthy choice for our family. And you know, this is just so important. And maybe you're out there and you don't even know where to start. Maybe you're just like, okay, so my kid I've been doing it, you know, and you want to change it up. There's nothing wrong with you putting a line in the sand and saying, today from here forward, we're going to do this.
And this is why.
And this is why. You know, just because you've done it one way doesn't mean you can't change. As long as you're consistent from here forward. And it's like anything. Consistency is going to matter. Because if you're always going to cave in and tell your kids, yeah, you can play this game when you're tired, that's not being consistent. That's tough. That's tough, but the more you can do that, the more you be consistent, the less they're going to ask, because they're always going to hear the same answer. And both my wife and I, we always try to be on the same page. Because if I'm saying always yes and she's saying no, that's a problem. You know, it's good to be on the same page if you're with your partner on something, especially when kids involved. I think it's important. We need to connect more with people and talk more and have open conversations. And there's so much hate and bickering and a lot of people out there that just have a line in the sand on like where they stand on things. And this is just kind of a call out of having an open conversation about it, you know, and just something to think about.
It just leads to more isolation, more alienation, isolation, which then leads to anxiety, depression. It can, feelings of hopelessness. And then where are we, you know, as a society in general? Yeah. But John mentioned empathy earlier, being kind to a stranger, smiling. Maybe you're not a parent, but there's a neighbor kid who would love to play basketball with you or whatever, or a niece and nephew that need your time and attention. And
maybe you don't have kids yourself, but you have someone, a family member, and you have an opportunity to be a positive impact on that kid. Show them a healthy video game. Play Super Monkey Ball with them, or play a Nintendo game, or play something, Crash Bandicoot, or play something that is age appropriate. Play it with them. The best thing you could do with your kids is play a video game with them. And they say that couples and families that play video games together actually at a higher probability they stay together.
Yeah, play anything really. Engagement and communication.
So we have kind of a tradition on Christmas where we try to play a video game, something. And so it's kind of a lot of fun. And we haven't played Pong in a bit, but we've had a lot of fun with that one. But anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. This is kind of a more somber tone. This has really been on my mind, and it's something that I wanted to talk about. Being a parent, being a teacher, I want to have that open conversation because I think that that's something of kind of a more of a unique aspect that I can bring to this channel. And I thought I'd bring, the wisest person in our household on and having that conversation. So,
well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I just want to say thanks for continuing to watch my videos and still uploading 3 videos a week. And this is the Immortal John Hancock.
And Sarah.
Take care.